is that there's Slade getting on, because it's #1 time, and here they come. It's Slade.
Slade have always had that thing, that indefinable thing that actually made people happy.
They were a proper geezers band, but they sort of dressed like the Diddy Man, didn't they?
They're the original Spinal Tap, that their amplifiers went to 11.
Noddy Holder's got one of the greatest voices in rock ever.
When you're top of the pops, it is the best feeling in the world.
Slade are one of the most successful pop acts of all time, having sold over 50 million records worldwide. In the 70s alone, they had 6 #1s, a feat equalled only by ABBA. It began in the 60s, when shouty bloke Noddy Holder joined the In-Betweens, formed by toothsome guitarist Dave Hill and dreamboat drummer Don Powell. The lineup was completed after the audition of cherubic classical violinist Jim Lee.
Don said, "So I see you play the violin. Do you play any other instruments?" I said, "Oh, I had to go at cello, but I didn't really get on too well with that." And he said, "Oh, did the spike keep sticking in your neck?"
I don't know what the magic was. I really don't know, but there was something special there.
We formed this foursome, and we went to this 3 men in a boat across the road from Nod's house, this pub, and we rehearsed together.
I think the first gig was Walsall Town Hall, April the 1st, 1966, April Fool's Day, and we were playing the fill from then on.
The band's first single, You Better Run, set the world alight, but only the world that stretched from Wolverhampton to Walsall.
And that came out on December the 2nd, 1966 on Columbia Records. The record number was DB8080.
I seem to remember we tried to get the local store to stock 500 copies or something and tried to get people to buy them, trying to get in the charts. It didn't work.
He was #1 in Wolverhampton for 6 weeks. He kept Green Grass of Home by Tom Jones off the top in Wolverhampton.
After 3 years of slog, the In-Betweens started calling themselves Ambrose Slade. But the real turning point was a chance encounter with Big Chaz Chandler, formerly of the Animals and manager of Jimi Hendrix. Chaz would mastermind their success, and he began by changing the name. Ambrose was out. From now on, they'd be plain Slade.
Chaz, I think, was probably looking upon us as trying to make a change in an image. We'd all got long hair and we all looked good. In fact, we all had girlfriends then.
And I said to Chaz, "What's news at the moment? What's making news in the paper? What's causing controversy?" Skinheads. Of course, Chaz, "Yes, yippee!" He found something. And of course, Chaz was on the phone right away.
He said, "I want you to become skinheads." And of course, no. I've spent 3 years growing this. Mate, no way.
He rung me up and he said, "You Davey," because he talks like that.
All he got to say to Dave, "Davey, you could be a millionaire if you have this done."
I mean, I was, what?
I thought, oh no, what have I done? They're nice guys, you can't turn them into a bunch of bother boys, nobody's going to believe it. Too late, he said, they're out having their haircuts, we're just getting the boots and braces together now. I just don't understand it, why then again it's so uptight. I don't think I'll stick around here, I ain't looking for a time.
My mum waved me off. I had hair down here, so I go back and she brings me a cup of tea the next morning and pours the tea all over me because she thought there was someone else in the bed.
Dave hated it with a vengeance. He hated the skinhead days.
Because we were always playing darts in the dressing room because nobody, we didn't go out the front in case we were beat up.
There was this new skinhead band around, and they had higher stacks than we did, and they were louder than we were.
We weren't.
And in the early days, we didn't like that at all.
Actually, a skin audience weren't that rough. Some of the pubs I played on a Saturday night in the Black Country, when people were pissed up, and Saturday night was fighting night. I mean, the skin audience wasn't that daunting.
We looked hard, though. I mean, you certainly knew who we were, because it was a bit like, "Oh, Slade, you're in there." And then all the groups with the long hair with the birds were in the other rooms,
Played in Bournemouth one night and it was full of skinheads. And, oh, my God, and we go on stage, and they just saw right through us.
we weren't quite right because we've got this violin player. I mean, now we're into reggae, you know. You know, it's all this.
We couldn't get on top of the pops because the producer's son had been beaten up by skinheads, so we were back in the alley. We couldn't do anything then.
The one benefit we got out of the skinhead era was none of the promoters ever tried to rook us for money. They always paid up on the spot.
Not look good. I think Jim and myself were probably the awkward members.
So very much, that was a Lennon McCartney composition.
It was 5 years before we got any record success. We slogged around the country in the back of the van sharing bags of chips and things like that.
Nod developed as a frontman, and we had this song at the end of the show, Get Down and Get With It.
Now get down and get with it with Slade.
If you think about the bother boots developing into bigger boots, and you think about us having an audience where they're all going, all this stamping mark.
I want to see everybody get up off your seats, clap your hands and stamp your feet.
It was all atmosphere.
Take it down and get with it. It's been a long time.
I developed an hairstyle which actually came from that skinhead thing where I had a very short fringe and very long hair.
Take it down and get with it, baby. Watch everybody do the dance. Take it down and get with it.
I was 13. And then all of a sudden, there was Get Down and Get With It. And this was like, wow, man, this is some record here. This is pretty tough, you know.
There's nobody's ever sounded like Noddy, or ever before, or ever will.
I want to see everybody raise both your hands in the air. Come on, everybody, everywhere. I said clap your hands. Clap your hands.
Slade, I always just thought were very loud. I remember them loud, very loud. Louder than what I like to play, to tell you the truth.
I remember when we first went to Top of the Pops, the sets were being held up with tape and it was all a bit sort of tatty and it wasn't that wonderful ball that we saw on TV. You could see the cracks and the joints and you could see it being stuck together. Such is the arrogance of youth. I looked at this and I thought, we can take this, we can do this.
Thursday night, and there's this thing called Top of the Pops. There was no other music on telly. It was black and white TV. There was no video, so there was no missing it and recording it later. There was this moment where you saw these people having a ball.
Once we had that foot in the door with the first hit, Get Down and Get With It, from then it just went ballistic.
I got this idea for this rhythm. Nod and I were into Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli. I took my violin, I went over and knocked on Nod's door.
And it was the first time me and Jim had sat down to write a song properly together, gauged as a hit single.
So his mum made a cup of cocoa, and I said, I've got this idea, this rhythm, and shuffle.
I won't laugh at you when you boo-hoo-hoo, 'cause I love you. I can't turn my back on the things you like.
Half an hour later, the cocoa was drunk, and 'Cause I Love You was born, and it was number one, like that.
Just like the things you do. Don't you change the things you do.
But what was good about it was this, this clapping, you know, bump, bump, that we did in the corridor, and it came out on the record really loud.
The whole record came alive, the song came alive. It was a good pop song to start with, but that gave it the icing on the cake.
Just like the things you do.
I'm not a student, I've never been to college, you know, I never went to art school. Not very good with words, but, you know, Slade speak to me just through the energy of the guitars and the music more than anything.
We would listen to the radio at 1 o'clock when the charts used to be read over the air and they used to play the records.
You know, that also, you know, and Alan Freeman.
Because they didn't preempt Top of the Pops in those days. So you'd sit there watching, and then suddenly they go Slade, and it was, oh, yay, yay, they've done it, they've made it.
It was one of the highlights of our career.
Although you're number one in the charts, you still could be considered as a pop group. You're still not serious, like you're not the Who, the Stones, or the Beatles. You're just starting, but you've just had your first big one.
This next one's a bit of a stomper, so you can start leaping about a bit and getting the feet on the floor.
The songwriting of Noddy Holder and Jim Lee would prove to be the foundation of Slade's success. Had a bit of trouble with the spelling, mind.
Back home in the Midlands, that was like a phonetic way of writing at the time, the spelling. And that's where really that came from. Then again, it was trying to heavy the thing up.
I said, why don't we use the dialect? Because on the toilet walls in the Black Country, write it how we say it. In fact, the lyric sheet is actually written in that phonetic spelling. Because when I used to jot the lyrics down to take in the studio, I used to spell it phonetically in the dialect anyway. And we used it, and that became a trademark.
And this idea on record looked good. It was a bit tricky with Merry Christmas, everybody, because, you know.
It was actually used in schools for quite some time afterwards. Radio 4 did a documentary on it.
In 1972, Slade were practically glam royalty in the court of the three chart kings, Mark Bolan, Alice Cooper and Rod Stewart. But were they any good live? Could they hold their own alongside, for example, the mighty Quo?
Did a tour with them, I think a package tour of some sort with them, and we supported them on some tour they were doing.
Went to Australia, didn't we?
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it. I mean, we'd been sort of ruling the roost, and all of a sudden they'd come along and we're supporting them. And it was kind of weird. I don't know how that happened, but the combination of the two bands in one night at one concert was a great combination for the audience. Both bands really sort of got it on.
But they were a serious group, you know. I mean, you had to be on the case when you followed Quo.
They hear me calling loud.
They were having so many hit singles, we kept saying to them, it's not the way, you know, it's too many, you're going to kill yourselves.
Well, in fact, I think we were number 1, number 2 and number 3, actually in the charts, a bit like the Beatles, really, in Australia when we went there. Because nobody ever went to Australia. It was like the world. It took forever to get there, you know.
I also would like to welcome not only Slade, but Caravan, Status Quo, and also special guest stars, Lindisfarne.
Chaz had decided they had a huge hit in Australia at that time, and he needed to go to Sydney. Dave got out the mat looking at it, very perplexed from it. He says, Chaz, explain this to me. We're going to Los Angeles, and then we're going to go all the way back to Sydney. And Chaz looked at him, gets hold of the atlas, bends it round into a circle. He said, Dave, the world is round. You just go round the other way. It's a globe, Dave. Sheer Spinal Tap, wonderful stuff.
At the moment, it's all down to having a good time, you know, it's partying music. And dressing casual. Solid. Dressing very casual like I am.
Chart success turned Slade into unlikely pin-ups, and the more they earned, the better they looked.
It was our first taste of screaming girl fans God knows why we got screamers in. I mean, we weren't the prettiest band going by any stretch of the imagination.
I gather they did the sex, drugs and the rock and roll. I don't know, I wasn't there. With our fills if they didn't.
He looked like some kind of Dickensian character, didn't he, with his big side whiskers, you know? And he was not a handsome man, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but he kind of screwed up his face, and I think he took delight in the fact that he could look remarkably ugly.
I don't think any of them were heartthrobs. Don was probably the best looking, I think.
To spend more time putting makeup on than sort of the photographs you to take, you know, sort of go there the day before to get made up, you know, to make sure you look all right.
Jagger's not exactly your pin-up, is he? But I mean, he's never been short of an, you know, of the female side of things, has he? You know, because it's more than just looks. It's what's behind it. It's the cosmic vibe.
Chaz always wanted us to move to London right from the beginning. Unfortunately, we didn't like these London clubs. We used to go to Tramp. We didn't like it.
We always kept our roots. The Black Country, nothing ever took that out of us. You know, they can say you can take the boy out the Black Country, but you'll never take the Black Country out the boy.
It was great seeing Jack Nicholson at the one table, you know, Mark Bolan over there and Michael Caine over there. But they were just guys, you know.
We were still the Wolverhampton lads. We never pandered to trying to be hip or anything. We couldn't be. We hadn't got a clue about being hip or cool. We hadn't got a first idea about it.
We used to get in the van and just drive home. We'd go through the night just to get home. And, you know, take me back home. We played the Lincoln Festival. All the press were there because they were saying this is the reason why drugs and youth are going together. Ban festivals, stop all these mass meetings. We went on there and we were booed on. Well, get off.
This so-called hip, cool audience, one thought, well, what's this band doing on this festival, you know? These have had hit records. You know, why should they be on this hip festival? And I thought, we'll show you, bastards. And after the first number, they were all up on their feet. It gave us this credibility as a great rock live act. And the next week, Take Me Back Home went to #1 in the charts as well.
And we want everybody to get off really right from the start. Yeah! Yeah! I don't want to drink my whiskey like you do. I don't need to spend my money but still do.
The title from Mama We're All Crazy came from the Lincoln Festival because I was sort of shouting to them, we're all crazy now and all this business.
And we're actually singing My, we're all crazy now. We're not singing Mama, we're all crazy now at all. My, we're all crazy now. And Chaz thought we were saying Mama. He said, well, play Mama again. What you want about Mama?
From the skinhead period, grey shirts, jeans and boots, what have you, and to this sort of like the Star Wars bar, used to sort of make it more colourful.
I can remember Noddy and the famous mirrored hat and the driving force of the music. I mean, it really was music that made you feel great.
I used to stand in the middle of the stage, and these huge beams of light used to come out of the hat, and it looked like absolutely phenomenal. And I could move the hat around and light all the audience up with this hat with mirrors. It became a symbol of the glam rock years, really, the top hat with mirrors.
I saw this coat, which had a big zip up the front, and it was a long black coat. And I thought silver, and there was a lot of things going on in space at the time.
Dave was on the planet Zog where this was concerned, and he really took to this like a duck to water.
They looked bizarre and didn't quite have taste in their appearance, but the music was far better than anyone else's around.
I said, could you make me that in silver? I said, yeah.
But he never changed in front of us. He used to go into the toilets to change. And like my standard line was, come on H, reveal.
And out he'd come and oh my God. Going on looking like that.
His standard line was, okay, you can laugh. You write them, I'll sell them. That was his line.
I mean, have you ever seen Elton John? He got mothballs on at one gig. I mean, talk about the things I wore. You know, and his music's serious, isn't it? We did this gig in Liverpool Stadium, part of a British tour, and I'd had these whacking great boots made, you see. Not considering that at some point it might be hard to walk on them, you see. They were big.
Are you in? You could hardly walk on them.
And it was the height of our career. The Liverpool audience was fabulous. But they rushed the stage, and the bouncers at the side of the stage says, got to get them off, it's going to be a riot. And they were running to the side of the stage, and I heard this enormous crack.
Rushed him off to hospital. He found he's broke his leg.
I said, you're busted, mate? I said, what am I going to do?
So we decided to get him a wheelchair to whiz about the staging.
And I got this bacon foil out of the cupboard, and it was silver, so I wrapped it around the actual plaster.
I used to get hold of him and actually whiz him around the stage myself and like, get him to the edge of the stage and try and topple him out the chair, and he used to panic.
And Don bought me a pallet from his shoulder, you know, and guess I got to go across the stage.
1972, it was a very good year for Slade. By comparison, 1973 was bound to be a quiet one.
We'd done a gig where the audience roaring, it was just rattling the walls, amazing volume. And to get over our volume was even more amazing. So this one night, they were shouting so hard, you could actually feel it in your chest. You could feel the thunderous applause and that going in your body. And so I came up with Come On Feel the Noise.
First gig I ever went to was Slade at London Palladium. I had never experienced anything so loud or seen girls that looked so glamorous and lads so excited.
Because the London Palladium was everything, you know, Tommy Trinder and all the famous people had been there, and, you know, the revolving stage, and... But not this night.
I said, you're going to have to clear all this stuff out of the pit, because it's going to be pandemonium when we come on stage. And the guy says, nah, of course not. We've had them all here. Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis, Judy Garland, we've had them all here. I think you've never had a rock show here.
They came on and looked the same as they looked on Top of the Pops, and literally 20 yards in front of me.
They had to call the fire brigade in.
There are sort of problems with the so-called Palladium people sort of thing, because the balcony was shaking.
The balcony was going up and down like this.
I can remember it to this day, and it just blew my head. It's like, what?
The kids had come over into the into the orchestra pit. The drums were going up in the air, the sheet music was up in the air, it was just total chaos.
I mean, they wouldn't let me dad in either because he was getting on a bit, you know, and he said, you can't come in here. He said, they're going mad.
And then we came out, you know, and you're there again with girls in hot pants. Girls at school weren't dressed like that because they were in school uniform. So this was like, wow, what is going on?
But after that, we got banned from that chain of theatres. From then on, we never were able to play any of their theatres again. But we'd warned them.
That summer, Slade played London's Earl's Court. At that point, they were the biggest live act in Britain.
What I've heard from fans is you should have been in the tubes. It was glitter, top hats, you know, big noddy top hats.
We had all these #1 records. We were at our height in the UK. We were cream of the crop.
Squeeze Me Please was #1 in the charts. Things never looked better.
We were sadly came down to earth with a bump.
It's strange in life, isn't it? You know, you're at peak of success and something really kicks you under. I mean, I must admit, Don's probably my best friend, actually, and we're still together now, working together, and I think that was a heck of a shock.
Every day when I'm away and there's been a few, every land I need a hand to help me come through.
His girlfriend was killed, Angela, and he was in a very bad way.
All that Earl's Court gig and all that tour and everything meant bugger all, really.
You know, the guy looked like he'd been crucified. Smashed up and all his hair cut off, and he got a loincloth and he was plugged into the machines.
At that point, they said he won't last a day. And looking at him, you wouldn't have thought he'd last a day.
My life was saved by 2 nurses who happened to be going on duty to the hospital that night, and they must have arrived just after the accident had happened, and they kept me alive till an ambulance came out. And I've never yet been able to find out who those 2 nurses are. They'll never tell me.
And the fact that he could possibly have suffered some brain damage and might not play again was terrible. I mean, it really was heartbreaking.
I do remember waking, I was shivering. I couldn't understand why. I was on a bed of ice to keep my temperature down. I remember panicking and pulling all the tubes everywhere, pulling them all out and trying to get out of bed because I panicked. I didn't know what I was doing there.
The tender hooks, the feeling that would Slade remain, would they be able to work again because they'd lose such a key member?
We'd had a meeting at my house with Chas to decide what we were going to do. We decided to carry on.
The accident was tragic. I mean, it was terrible. And it was extremely upsetting. And but as I say, life carries on. And I was at my brother's house.
Frank was plumbing in the dishwasher and overheard the conversation. He said, James. I went in. He said, James, I'm your man.
So from plumber to drummer.
I mean, I remember doing the one gig with Frank, and it's funny with Frank because he's like trying to do. He's a fan, Frank. You know, he's a good lad. He hasn't got Don's power though. And Don's an immense drummer.
It would certainly never have been the same. The magic was always the 4 of us together. That was always the magic.
My friend Stan's got a funny old man. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
While Don was in hospital, Noddy and Jim wrote songs and took up gurning, while Nouveau Riche super yob Dave Hill went shopping for houses.
And from the way you blind my...
I went into this house in Slade with this estate agent. He goes to the woman, he says, I've got an unusual gentleman outside. He said, I'd like to have a look at your house. I go walking in with a big hat on, you see, and the woman's going, I've seen his face somewhere. I was all over his daughter's bedroom. Oh yeah, I'll have a slice of this. And I went and bought it, you see, on the spur, as you do. I thought I lived next door to a huge house called Morven House. I thought, oh, that's quite stately, this. To only find out that I was living next door to 500 girls. And we were in the charts. And this television company come down and said, we want to film you moving in. I was coming down the road with a gold suit on, with all glitter and everything on, moving into a house with no furniture.
Hi. Hi, Dave. Thanks for inviting us over.
Yeah, great.
But Dave, it's not the sort of pad I was expecting.
Well, what was you expecting, a silver one?
Oh, probably.
I couldn't go out in the house. I was a prisoner.
How are you going to cope with that when you come in every day?
I really didn't expect that.
And people used to sleep in my garden in this treehouse, leave me notes. Because the thing is, you see, you've always lived in a council house, you've not experienced carpets. It was all lino that we had. There were all carpets in this house.
Well, I don't really know it that well, but this is what they call a lounge, you know, which they had as a lounge before.
The dustbin men wore dress suits, I think, around that area, because it was so posh, I think it shampooed and set their lawns, I think.
You're 20 years old, you've got 500 girls next door, you've got girls all over the country shouting for Dave, shouting for the Slade.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
It feels great, you know. I mean, anybody who says it's not good is an idiot, you know. I mean, we like being popular. It's great, you know.
Dave, please! Oh, please, I've not had it once yet.
I eventually had to move.
Later that summer, Don Powell seemed to have made a full recovery. He left hospital and prepared to tour with Slade again.
When I first realised that I got amnesia, I used to fight like crazy, and that was the worst thing I could do.
The memory thing was a problem with Don, but we just took it on board. It was just the way it was.
I didn't realise at the time, and we came to rehearse to do something, and we'll do, let's try Come On Feel the Noise. How does it go? And not shouts, we'll do Merry Christmas. It was #1 at the time. And we go, how does it go?
And Don grabbed hold of me and said, Jim, what? How does it go?
Sing it to me, sing it to me.
So while I'm talking to the audience and chatting to the audience, Jim's sort of behind me saying to Don, it starts like this. And once he got the start, he was away. He knew it then.
When you always know when it's Christmas in England, you know, here it is, Merry Christmas.
So here it is, Merry Christmas, everybody's having fun. Look to the future now, it's only just begun. Are you waiting for the family?
In that song, there's probably two of the best lines that I ever came up with. Does your granny always tell you that the old songs are the best? Then she's up and rock and rolling with the rest, which every granny does at Christmas. Part of the success of that record at the time was definitely what was going on around. There was 3-day weeks, TV was going off at night because of power cuts at 10 o'clock. The whole structure of what was going on in the country was very, very dismal. The Christmas record was very optimistic. I think it lifted people. And I knew that I wanted it to be very working class lyric, what normal families went through at Christmas time. I'd had a few drinks. I was in good spirits. I was in a festive spirit. Suddenly these lines were coming into my head. As soon as I got the first line, I hanging up your stocking on the wall, I was on a roll then. The basic tune melody to the chorus came from a song that was the very first song I'd written. The original lyrics on it were really hippie acid lyrics were so won't you buy me a rocking chair to watch the world go by, buy me a looking glass to look me in the eye. That was the original lyric. To get it finely tune them right, it took me about 3 or 4 hours. And the funny thing is, it still sounds fresh. I know a lot of people won't agree with me, they're sick to death of it.
Doesn't it get re-released every year? I mean, that must have sold about 50 billion copies, isn't it? Fantastic.
I was walking around Rackham's in Birmingham looking for something, and Merry Christmas was playing on the flipping... You know, it's like when you go around the supermarket, and I opened the clothes, and this woman was singing it blatantly the other side of these clothes. So hear it, and there was my face.
Is there a particular lyric in that song that you like?
Yeah, the bit at the end where he says, it's Christmas. It's brilliant. It's just shouting, isn't it? It's just pure... It's pure emotion.
Merry Christmas, Everybody had been Slade's 6th #1 in less than 2 years. Now their manager Chas Chandler looked to a new creative challenge for his boys. The result was a feature film, Flame.
With Flame, none of us had ever acted before. It was like dipping our toes into uncharted waters, definitely.
Essex had done That'll Be the Day. It was a natural step for Slade to make a film.
Do you actually like what we do?
The movie explored the harsh realities of life in a fictional rock and roll band. But would Flame backfire on Slade?
Right. You see, it's all a matter of packaging, Paul. Packaging, promotion. Oh, I'm no bloody fish finger.
We actually didn't do a bad job in the acting department, really. We got away with it.
I'm not the vocalist, I'm the singer.
How'd you do it? I never read the whole script anyway. I only read my part. I didn't even know it was bad half the time.
I remember at the premiere we were said, have you done the right thing by exposing the downside of the music business, if you like? And I could see what they meant.
You're a good live act, and that's it. Excuse me. What crap you served up tonight? That wasn't music. You're just second-rate comics working on a third-rate audience. With a fourth-rate agent copying 10%.
Flame failed to win any Oscars. But at least the tunes were corkers.
People just think when they listen to Slade, they think of Come On Feel the Noise and Mama We're All Crazy Now, but how does it feel? It's easily one of the best songs ever written, ever. That's such a brilliant song. So go and buy it if you're watching this. It's on the greatest hits, track 13.
Although it was the gentler side of the band, which we aren't really remembered for, that was always there. That sort of happy, sad vibe. We're remembered for being the guys, you know, who make a lot of noise. But we didn't always.
I've seen the bridges of the world and they're for real. I've had a red light on the wrist without me even getting kissed. It still seems so unreal. I've seen the morning...
Most of the world loved Slade, but the USA remained unconquered and unconvinced. The band even moved over there for 2 years, but the Americans and black country glam refused to mix.
Concert-wise, it was great for us. We just couldn't get a record away.
We're over in America at the moment. Hope everybody's having a great time on the 500th birthday of Top of the Pops. Wish we could have been there getting drunk with everybody.
They couldn't understand a word we were saying. It was just impossible.
I did have trouble understanding their accent. Yeah, they got very thick accents. I didn't say they're thick. I said they had very thick accents.
America was not ready and did not want Slade. They were a good time, happy band.
Slade's act was somehow uncool for America. It was not cool to come over all flamboyant like a showman.
America was coming out of Watergate, Vietnam. All it wanted to do was feel sorry for itself. It was not looking for a good time.
They returned home in about 77 or so, sort of down and out. Slap bang into the middle of the summer of punk in this country.
Now I'm so happy to see you, and you're so clever to come.
Well, Well, the late 70s was a bit strange for us, definitely, because we were considered boarding old farts, I suppose.
It was black and black clothes and belts and studs and chains coming off their noses and also just some bad teeth.
There wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel.
It was the year zero. It had a political side to it that was almost like Pol Pot.
I thought, what are we about this then, you know? We feel like rock dinosaurs. You know, anybody that was any successful before then was out of it. Money was difficult and there were problems, and I thought, well, records dry up, you know, where do you go? You know, what's going to happen? You know, you've got to survive, you see.
The group was on the cusp of breaking up around that time.
I've had this idea about doing weddings, you know, rent a pop star, you know, go and drive them, you know, to the wedding.
Yes, Dave was going to start a wedding car business. Not one of his brightest ideas.
So I said to Chaz, I think I'm going to have to leave and do this. So I thought it was a good idea. And he rung me up a week later and said, I've had an offer. It's funny how things happen, isn't it, you know?
The call came through from Reading that Ozzy Osbourne had pulled out.
He didn't feel as though his band, Blizzard of Oz, was ready.
And I told Nod and Jim I wasn't doing it, and they'd accepted it.
He was having none of it, Dave. He didn't want to do it. He was adamant he refused.
But Chaz was on the phone again. Are you thinking about it, Davey? I said, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I must admit, something was twitching me, and then he talked me into it.
And there was sort of this buzz about the place that it was going to be right for us somehow to play that day.
I want to see everybody get your boots on. And raise both your hands in the air. Glory, hallelujah.
We walked on stage. In 45 minutes, we went from a no hope to a huge, you know, we were back. Big time. The crowd they were going so crazy, and somebody was shouting down, Merry Christmas. So here we were, the middle of summer, heavy metal concert, the whole tens of thousands of people all singing Merry Christmas. Crazy.
And that night driving home, I couldn't sleep, thinking what I'd just done. And I was about to leave.
People must have been shocked that we could still play. After all these years together, for some strange reason, they must have thought, oh, well, they can't play anymore.
That's all the light today. And they take it to #1.
Following Quiet Riot's success, Slade themselves finally broke into the American charts.
If you're in the swing, party everything. If you're in the swing, run away. See chameleon, lying there in the sun. All things to everyone, run away. Whoa!
I suppose our time had come in America.
To capitalise on the new success, Slade toured America with their old chum from Brum, the sobering influence that is Ozzy Osbourne.
And we got offered this tour with Ozzy Osbourne. We flew to the States and did a few sort of warm-up gigs, if you like.
Every time they tried to do anything in America, something would happen where it would prevent them. I mean, they should have been the biggest thing since the Beatles in America.
I began to feel really ill and I didn't know what it was. Called doctors in, they didn't know what the heck was going on.
I remember being in San Francisco with him, and then I said, we're going home. And I said, why? He said, Jim's got an hepatitis. And I thought, what?
I felt as though I was dying. Something really weird was going on.
We come off stage and Jim collapsed in the dressing room.
And it was just one of those points in history, just like the Beatles at Candlestick Park. We didn't know that was it.
We all need someone to talk to, my oh my. We all need someone to talk to, my oh my.
But the crunch came when we were set to come home, and CBS had put this personal appearance for us in Cleveland, Ohio.
Need someone to talk to, my oh my.
There was something within us that we were saying, We've paid our dues, we've trod the boards for 20-odd years.
We're standing on their stage playing. Don't forget Jim's ill as well. We've got these tapes going behind us. I'm singing live. And it's like doing a television show, but in front of these thousands of people.
If you ain't got nothing planned, we all need some loving, my oh my.
I mean, it's like karaoke, if you like. And I'm looking at them, what the hell are we doing?
The end of us live was the end of the band, really.
I got in the car and I said to us, this is never going to happen with this band again. Never.
That's the last time we actually toured together. That was 84.
It was fabulous for young lads all together. But when I'd done it for that long, I didn't want to do it anymore. It had no attraction for me anymore. I was getting offered other stuff, and I wanted to try other stuff. I came to the point where I thought, if I don't try to do this other stuff now, I'm never going to try it.
Slade were dead as a live act, but Vic and Bob just wouldn't let them lie.
The Vic and Bob thing.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, dear. I don't really know why they picked on us.
Come on in there, Dave.
He's doing me hairstyle. Come on, Dave, let's cut the corner of your hair here, over you know, this Brummy accent.
Did Mr. Hill finish? How does it look, Jimmy? Is the bend even? Busting down. What you laughing at, Noddy?
Really, I suppose in a surreal kind of way, it's pretty much what we were like in them days.
And in 1995, when Oasis Noel Gallagher did a spot of radio DJing, a Slade fan made a novel suggestion for Noel's next record.
So they sent me and Dylan into the back room, and we were looking through like all the CDs. And,
So Noel's looking through this kind of CD collection, and I'm looking through, and I spot Slade, Greatest Hits. So I kind of went, Noel, you got to play some Slade.
If it wasn't for him, then we wouldn't have done the Slade cover, really. Of course, Liam being Liam, if you watch the footage of Top of the Pops, the best bit about it is he's so blatantly miming out of time, it cracks me up, man. Come on, feel the noise, girls, grab the boys, we'll go wild, wild, wild. And it just sounded like an Oasis song, you know.
It's a bit uncanny for me when I'll write a song and people say, it sounds like Oasis, and isn't this putting the cart before the horse?
I went to see Oasis when they did Main Road, and they came on and did just the encore.
We found out Noddy was up in the balcony listening. I mean, I hope it was as good for him as it was for us, because it was brilliant.
It was great seeing 40,000 kids singing along to it. A song that was 20 years old, more than 20 years old, and the audience were singing along to it in the 90s.
I love that music, I love that sound, I love this new channel.
Since then, Dave and Don have started touring again as Slade 2. Jim recovered fully from hepatitis and still writes songs, while Noddy has become a radio DJ and successful actor.
Thank our lucky stars we packed in them daft ideas about trying to start a pop group. Cheers. Cheers.
When you're going to get back together with Slade, that's all I ever get me here now. You know, but it ain't going to happen. I don't know why people can't sort of accept the fact it's not going to happen.
I thought we might, do something with Millennium or something, you know? I'm sure somebody'd love us.
So come on, feel the noise. Girls, grab the boys. We get wild, wild, wild. We get wild, wild, wild. So come on, feel the noise. Girls, grab the boys. We get wild, wild, wild. Let you go. Yeah.
Quarterfinals, 11:50.
Valentine's Day, a time for giving flowers.
It is a very sexy business, the flower industry.
Or a time to rebel.
I want to act like a cat and claw his face and spit at him.
To throw insults.
He thought we were a joke. It was just highly personal. It was highly offensive.
To talk dirty.
The biggest mistake we made was that we thought the members were intelligent.
Where did all the romance go? Blood on the Carpet goes inside Interflora. Tonight, 9:50, BBC Two.
If you think all surgeons are the same, and doctors always know what they're doing, you need this examined. Join me, Phil Hammond, for a new series of Trust Me, I'm a Doctor, Friday at 8 on BBC Two.
Well, it's now finished, but what's it like to live in? Dream House is on BBC One now. If sex is such an energy-consuming, wasteful process, why bother? That's the question in Battle of the Sexes in half an hour here on BBC Two after a slippery challenge.